Hi friends, I'm Scott Giles and welcome to Power Talk, my podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I cover topics related to hypnocoaching, spirituality, and the hypnotic arts and sciences generally. If you'd like to know more about my professional work or sign up for my free e-newsletter, Power Lines, check out my website, which I'll tag at the end of this video. Today I want to talk about something that will be a little humorous, at least for most of you. I want to talk about weddings I have seen that went wrong. Now, I'm not doing this to poke fun at specific people. Instead, this is a way of passing on some wisdom from a clergy person who has officiated at a lot of weddings so that you or someone you know might escape problems. First, a little bit of background. For the decade between 1981 and 1991, I was the parish minister at a national landmark church, Unity Temple by Frank Lloyd Wright in Oak Park, Illinois. As a national landmark, it was a popular site for weddings, and we did about 100 weddings per year. The fees from building rental were a significant source of income for the congregation. Eventually, I would bring onto staff a minister at large whose only job was to do all of these weddings, saving myself from the time demands. I would only officiate at those weddings that were for church members, and the minister at large did all the others. I did this as the congregation was very eager to get the income from the weddings, but didn't seem to grasp that it took a lot of ministerial time to do them. I would routinely get requests, even demands, to be two places at the same time, at some church event or attending to a pastoral need, while simultaneously expected to be at the church in my robe, pronouncing people married. Some of the unusual weddings I officiated at were kind of fun. These tended to be ceremonies done outdoors in various venues. For example, I actually did a Renaissance fair wedding and another where the maid of honor was a horse. Seriously. The bride wanted her closest friend to be her maid of honor, and that was her horse. It went fine. They braided flowers into the horse's mane, and the horse behaved perfectly. It didn't try to eat the bride's bouquet or anything else. It was really kind of cool. But there were other outdoor weddings that were less pleasant. We always told the couple that if they were planning an outdoor wedding, they could not count on the weather cooperating. So to be sure that there was a tent or other alternative for the ceremony in the case of rain or storm. Well, they all said they would do that, but some of them were fibbing to save money, and after getting drenched a couple of times, my interest in outdoor ceremonies faded. But the one that was really the last straw was an outdoor wedding at a country club on the day when the 17-year circadias emerged from hibernation. And these insects, about 2 inches long, are attracted to white. Everything was going fine initially, except for some chirping sounds from the surrounding foliage, but in the next few minutes the bride was covered in insects. They got everywhere. Fortunately, it was possible to move the ceremony indoors, and we did that, but the bridal gown was frilly, and they kept finding bugs in it during the ceremony. One of the hardest things I have ever had to do was to keep eye contact with the couple when I could see 2-inch bug walking across the bride's shoulder. I refused all future requests for outdoor weddings after that one. Now, weddings tend to be high state occasions put on by mostly amateurs, and therefore things can go wrong. I had a bride who got so drunk before the ceremony that she couldn't find the center aisle of the church. She had had a bottle of peppermint schnapps with her in the green room, and the groom showed up a half hour late. And in response, she got absolutely sloshed. No idea what happened to them as a couple, but it was memorable. I've had the birth mother and the stepmother of the bride get into a slapping fight in the front pew regarding who was going to sit closest to the center aisle. I've had the estranged father of a bride show up uninvited and demand to walk his daughter, who he had not seen for years, down the aisle. And I've had to cope with a few obnoxious wedding planners or photographers who seem to forget that the clergy are in charge of the church ceremony. But the wedding that stands out among the hundreds I have done was the wedding that was inadvertently topless. It wasn't intended that way, it just sort of happened. The bride had made her own gown, and it was strapless. However, she didn't underwire the bodice of the gown. She was supporting the top half of the gown simply in virtue of her endowment, which was sufficient to support the top of the gown, until I pronounced them husband and wife. The groom then swept her off her feet to kiss her, and in the process compressed her breasts. So when she was swept back upright, the top of her gown promptly fell to her waist. So there she was with this huge grin on her face, naked to the waist in front of hundreds of people, and it took a few minutes for her to realize what had happened. Oh, I put my robe sleeves up and we got her tucked back in. Everyone applauded, so it did end well, but one does remember. So here are some things I suggest regarding weddings. First, understand that there is no limit to how much money you can spend on a wedding. And I've seen some incredible spectacles. If you want to spend a pile, then so be it. But remember that this is an event that will be over in a day. I've seen people spend as much on their wedding as the down payment on a nice house. So be sure you're up for that. The money mounts fast, and there is a whole industry aimed to get you to spend more. So keep your wits about you. Second, don't let the extended families control the event. The wedding belongs to the bride and groom. If you, as the happy couple, are encountering serious interference from extended family, my frank advice is to bail. In my experience, you will be happier eloping or with a simple, sincere ceremony with a church basement reception catered by your friends to going along with an elaborate wedding put on by parents because they have an agenda and want to show off to family and friends. If it isn't going the way you want, resist. Third, understand that step parenting is hard. The fact that the bride and groom are in love does not mean children with other partners are happy about that. I've seen weddings where a stepchild spent the entire ceremony in the bathroom loudly screaming at the top of her lungs. If the stepkids are not on board, don't make them play a role in the wedding they don't want. There are just too many opportunities for sabotage. Sometimes I thought that one of the benefits of a complex wedding is that it puts the couple under so much stress that any flaws in the relationship get revealed. Not always, but if you encounter a red flag during the run up to a wedding, take that very seriously. For example, if someone constantly loses their temper or manifests inappropriate control needs, that's not going to get better after the minister pronounces you husband or wife. Finally, keep a sense of realism. Sociologist Bruno Bettelheim remarked that we put our hidden agenda as a culture in our fairy tales. These are lessons we would never tell a young person, but communicate anyway. So we tell them stories about the princess who waits for her prince to come to rescue her instead of taking initiative to be in charge of her own life. We hint that there is something praiseworthy about being so sensitive a princess that you can feel a pea under 20 mattresses, instead of praising women who develop emotional resilience. The upshot of this is that many brides see their wedding as an opportunity to act like a princess, and we even tend to dress brides to resemble that. And all of that is fine and it can be fun, but remember, it's not real. You are not actually royalty. Don't start issuing commands, and I've seen far too many friendships break up because of the way people were treated when they agreed to be in a wedding party. So that's my advice, and that's what I've seen. If any of you have a wedding in your future or have someone in your family who does, take seriously the counsel of a minister who has pretty much seen it all. Hey, thank you for your time and attention today. I'll be back next week with another talk on a different subject, and I'd like to invite you to join me. It does help if you let others know about my videos, so please like, share, and subscribe. And if I can be of help to you, feel free to reach out through email, my website, or my Patreon channel. Stay well and stay safe.